You will find the written recipe and more recipes on my page on Facebook. Please don't forget to check the description box below the video for the links. You can also find me on any of the social media applications listed here. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe if you like the video. Hello everyone and assalamu alaikum. This is Seba from the Bite of Delight. Today I'm going to show you how I make my walnut caramel tarts. They're going to be tartlets, actually, mini tarts. It's a delicious recipe. Let's get started. Walnut caramel tart, you will need for the dough 250 grams of butter. You can mix margarine and butter, 250 grams of sifted powdered sugar, a pinch of salt, 1 tablespoon of vanilla, 2 eggs, 500 grams of sifted flour. For the filling, you will need 3 cups of toasted chopped walnuts. For the caramel, you will need 1.5 cups of superfine sugar, 1 tablespoon of glucose syrup or honey, and that's optional, 2/3 a cup of liquid whipping cream at room temperature, 100 grams of butter at room temperature, and 1 teaspoon of salt, and finally 1 teaspoon of vanilla. On a tray lined with parchment paper, add the roughly chopped walnuts and toast them lightly in a 120-degree oven. With a hand whisk, whisk the butter well until it becomes creamy. Here I have used a mixture of butter and margarine because I'm not a big fan of butter, but that's up to you. Add the salt and powdered sugar gradually and mix them well together. Add the eggs, one at a time, whisking well after each addition. Then add the flour until a smooth dough is formed. With this consistency. Wrap in plastic and refrigerate for 30 minutes, or you can make it at night, refrigerate overnight, and use it the next day. Roll out the dough, make sure it's neither too thin nor too thick. I did that by using 2 identical plastic container lids and used their thickness as a guideline when rolling. Then with the cookie cutter, cut out circles that are slightly bigger than the size of the mold or the cupcake tin you're using. Place it inside of the mold . If you are going to use the inverted cupcake tin like me, place a parchment paper over the tartlet shells and place a baking tray over it so that the bottoms of the tartlets remain flat. Bake in a preheated 175°C oven for 15 to 20 minutes. Meanwhile, beat an egg white with some salt and set aside. We are going to brush the interior of the tarts with a very thin layer of the beaten egg whites. This step is to ensure that the tart shell doesn't turn mushy, especially if the filling is moist or on the wet side, just like the caramel filling I will use here, or if you're filling it with custard, for example. You can also brush the hot tart shells with melted white or dark chocolate if you don't want to use egg whites, and keeping in mind that this step is optional. Now remove the tartlets and brush the interior with a very thin layer of the beaten egg whites while it's still very, very hot. If you're afraid of the raw egg whites and your tarts have gone cold, you can always return them back to a warm 120-degree oven for 2 to 3 minutes just to make sure that the egg whites are not raw. Allow them to cool completely before you fill them. To make the caramel, place a third of the sugar in a heavy-bottomed saucepan and cover it on very low heat until it starts to melt. Add half of the remaining sugar until it starts melting. Keep swirling the saucepan to make sure the sugar melts evenly. Add the remaining amount of sugar until it dissolves completely and it's amber or golden in color without it being burnt. Add the cream and keep whisking on very low heat. Remove from the heat and add the butter, salt, and vanilla. Mix well until everything is incorporated and set aside for 5 minutes. Add the warm walnuts to the caramel and mix well. Fill in the tartlets with the walnut caramel mixture, around 2 teaspoons per tartlet. I hope you liked this recipe. Please try it and tell me what you think in the comments below. Thank you.